All right, let's talk about Me Too, because this is back in the news now. And I know you've been very outspoken, and I get it. I like your thoughts on a lot of these issues. But boy, oh boy, there's a meltdown in the wake of that verdict for Johnny Depp. And it was a verdict for Johnny Depp. I love how these newspapers are like, split decision. No, it wasn't. He won 5 out of the 6 counts that were at issue. And the only one she won was some small allegation that he defamed her when he said she messed up their apartment to make it look extra bad when the cops came one time. The jury said, we don't believe she did that. So we're going to say she was, and people are like, split decision. He said, she said, we'll never know. Well, no, I mean, we may never know, but we certainly know how the jury felt about this, and it was not split. Here's a sampling. This is from Michelle Goldberg, opinion columnist for the New York Times. The Amber Heard verdict was a travesty. Others will follow. The verdict in this case is difficult to explain logically, she says. I guarantee you Michelle Goldberg watched none of this trial. She writes, the confounding part isn't that the jury sided with him over her. This is the country that elected Donald Trump. And she goes on to say the explosion of defiant, desperate feminist energy that was Me Too has now been smothered by an even fiercer reaction. Me Too was a movement of women telling their stories. Now that Heard has been destroyed for identifying as a survivor, other women will think twice. That's not why Heard was destroyed, because she identified as a survivor. She was destroyed because they did not believe her. Her claim was not found credible. She says, as a First Amendment issue, this verdict is a travesty because the New York Times cares deeply about everyone's ability to speak freely their opinion. The First Amendment. I mean, this is a joke, right? These same forces are the ones who are trying to shut anybody up if they say there's a difference between trans women and biological women. You know, the biological sex is real. Does she support my First Amendment right to say that? I'm going to venture no. Right. Even if Heard had lied about everything during the trial, even if she'd never suffered domestic abuse, she still would have represented it. So she's defending her statement in the Washington Post that I've come to represent a figure of domestic abuse. We should slice that. Who cares if it was true? She represented it. Like Jussie Smollett came to represent the victims of racial hate crimes. It doesn't matter whether it actually happened. You know, when you look at him, you think of that. And then she concludes in part with, if there's one thing the American people hate more than decadent Hollywood elites, it's mouthy women. It's mouthy. So that was her takeaway from the verdict. What do you make of it?
Well, it seems that everyone, whether they're an advocate or a critic of Me Too, seems to think that this verdict it signals the death knell of Me Too. And I don't see it that way. I think it's probably a rebirth of Me Too in a more diffuse and ambient and arbitrary way. Like now you no longer have to be a man accused of sexual offenses to be Me Too'd. Everybody's basically fair game. And I think, you know, from the start, for me, it was apparent that Me Too was this like dress rehearsal for this overall erosion of due process.
Yeah. And what did you make of it, Dasha? As somebody, you know, who sees the way Hollywood in particular works, and I'll give her the point that he had more power than she did, for sure. I mean, he had more, part of that was charm, part of it was star power, but what do you make of it?
I mean, and there were, you know, problems in Hollywood with the old like Weinstein model, which was functionally an open secret. When I moved to LA, I was told like, oh, you could be a Weinstein girl. People just talked about it, you know, and then it was like, then all of a sudden it wasn't sanctioned anymore. And everyone sort of had to fall in line with these new behavioral guidelines. Which, you know, maybe had some like ripple positive effects, but basically it was a net negative because I always saw Me Too basically as like a cynical power grab that wasn't actually going to correct any like power imbalances within the film industry. It was just going to make the most like vocal, shrill minority of women more powerful.
The composition of the power structure would change, but the distribution would stay the same, basically.
Yeah, like your Amber Heards, your actresses, you know, like who come to symbolize domestic abuse survivors, actually, I think, do a real disservice to women who actually are in vulnerable positions who people don't pay attention to because they're like waitresses or hotel maids or something like that.
Right. And the fact that a jury who listened to this case for 6 weeks found against her has to be reduced to, I think it was Tarana Burke who coined the phrase "Me Too," something like our fascination with violence, like our permissiveness toward violence. Why can't it just be this particular claim was not found credible? So many women's claims have been found credible and have been adjudicated in the court of public opinion or in a legal court. Why is it just because of this one case now it's America's fault? It's the patriarchy. It's like she was rejected. Sorry, but these people didn't watch it. And I did a whole talking points memo last week on how when I watched her testify, I actually was one of the few who thought, I believe a lot of these claims of abuse. I think she's telling them in a way that I find compelling and I can believe this. And then I went on to listen to her when she got cross-examined, lie about the small, the medium, and the large, all around those claims of abuse, and concluded, this is not a credible person. This is not a truth teller. She's lying about things she does not need to lie about, and therefore I rejected her testimony as a whole, which is exactly what you are typically instructed in jury instructions. That is your right to do as a juror. If you think they lied about one thing, you can reject the testimony in full. Instead, you get things like this from the co-founder of Ultraviolet. They sort of jump into situations like this and typically advocate on behalf of the alleged abused person, which is interesting because in this case, it was both. He was alleging he was the abused person. She writes as follows: I was served an unbelievable amount of content from so-called survivors and feminists during this trial, she means, taking Depp's side. There was nothing authentic about it. So now the actual, quote, survivors and feminists, people who've been working in this field, people who say they've been through it, they get dismissed because they sided with the wrong person. You have to, when they're both claiming victimhood and abuse, you're only allowed to side with the woman, you see. Otherwise, you're inauthentic.
Yeah. I mean, I think Believe Women does ultimately a disservice to women because it ignores, like you said, credibility and privileges like a victim status and then mines women for their trauma content to like gain footing.
So
yeah,
well
and it
said.
establishes a victory according to a bad faith precedent.
Well, the precedent, it's being righted, right? Bit by bit. Like due process is a good thing. Having one's claims tested with evidence demands is a good thing.
Yeah.
And I think you'll find that probably most people agree with you and agree with us that the verdict was correct in this case. But you get these kind of like proxy battles about race or gender, I think, to paper over the fact that very often the elites don't find the democratic result of a trial or a political process to be legitimate. They find it intolerable.
Are the high fuel costs putting a damper on your summer vacation plans? From higher prices at the pump to a jump in airfare, it's getting more expensive to get away for a week. But what if you could soak up those vacation vibes year-round? Get a Michael Phelps Swim Spa by Master Spas. Whether you want to stay close to home this summer or just want to extend your break, a Michael Phelps Swim Spa by Master Spas can transform your backyard into an oasis. It combines the benefits of a pool with the therapy of a hot tub. Michael Phelps Swim Spas by Master Spas have a water current so you can swim, do aquatic exercises, or just have fun with the kids. This is going to reinvent your family time. You will love it and your family and friends will too. Michael Phelps Swim Spas by Master Spas come in a variety of sizes to complement almost any yard, even if it's a small one. And since it's heated, you can use it year-round in any climate. Michael Phelps Swim Spas are 100% made in the USA by Master Spas, the world's largest swim spa manufacturer. Go to masterspas.com, put in the promo code MK to save $1,000 on a Michael Phelps Swim Spa or $500 on a Master Spas hot tub. That's masterspas.com, promo code MK. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.